Welcome to the September Talk Supervisors Professional Learning Session. In order to access all information, you will need to log in to Pear Deck by visiting joinpd.com and use the code VCWWPA. You will need to leave this recording open and playing while accessing Pear Deck. You will then listen to the video while interacting with Pear Deck slides. Please note that it's not an expectation that teachers begin using Pear Deck in their classroom. While we encourage using this add-on to Google Slides because it increases engagement, we understand that you will need support when learning how to use this tool. In the presentation, you will find 2 links that will help you get started. Frederick County Public Schools has purchased a Pear Deck license for teachers to utilize this tool for free. Please complete the survey linked at the end of the presentation by October 16th and let us know if you have any questions, and as always, feel free to contact the instructional supervisor assigned to your school.
We would like to do some introductions because we do have new art teachers that have joined us this year. And so what we'd like to do is just allow you to introduce yourself and say what school you're from. And the order might be different on the screen for all of us. So we're going to start alphabetically, if that's okay. And so if you don't mind, when I call your school, just please unmute yourselves and state your name and your school, maybe how long you've been there. If anything personal you want to share, we won't take long to do that, but especially if it's something unique you'd like to share with us. So let's start with apple pie, please. Hi, Lindsay. I can't hear you, but maybe others can. No, I don't know, Lindsay. Sorry. Anyway, Lindsay Wade is our new art teacher at Apple Pie. We can see your pretty face, Lindsay, but we can't hear you. And you're coming to us from Loudoun County, is that right? Okay, awesome. All right, Armal. Hi, Emery. Emery Duncan is our art teacher at Armal. Bass Hoover.
Hi, I'm Ms. D. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I am a first-year teacher at Bass Hoover now, and I was hired basically 2 days before school started. So it's as crazy as it seems. And I spent 5 years with the Discovery Museum before coming here.
Oh, wow. Awesome, Dee. Thank you, and welcome to the team in Frederick County. And I think I'm going in alphabetical order. I may not be. Evendale.
I'm Gillian Peterson. This is my 2nd year at Evendale, and I've taught, this is year 16 of teaching for me.
Okay.
But not with the county. Yeah.
Thank you, Jillian. Gainsborough.
Hi, I'm Keith Troxel. This is my 12th year at Gainsborough.
Okay, thanks, Keith. And Greenwood Mill. Hi, Brenda. We can't hear you.
Hi, I'm Brenda Simpson. This is my 35th year of teaching. So anyway, I can't get to the thing that you said, the Pear Deck. I don't know where it is.
Okay.
I'm in chat.
You are in chat.
Yes,
Linda
ma'am.
added, she will add it again, and you should be able to see it, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Okay, awesome.
It's
Greenwood
not a link.
Mill.
Just type it in, Brenda.
Oh, Brenda, you need to know to type it in, please. You click the link, joinpd.com, or or put it in your new tab in your new browser, joinpd.com, and then you enter the code. Okay, Indian Hollow.
Hi. My name's Ariana Kumis. My last name isn't changed yet. I have to wait to change everything. I just got married the other week. And this is my 7th year at Indian Hollow.
Congratulations. All right, M, Middletown.
Hi, I'm Danielle Green, and this is my 7th year at Middletown. And hi, everybody.
Thank you, Danielle. Orchard View.
Hi, I'm Jill Savory. This is my 5th year at Orchard View.
And I totally skipped Jay. Can we go back to Jordan Springs, please?
I'm Jordan Nagel. This is my 1st year at Jordan Springs, obviously. It's my 10th year teaching.
Thank you. Sorry about that, Erica.
Okay.
And thank you, Orchard View, as well. And Redbud Run.
Hey, this is Melanie Curtis. I think I've been here 16 years, 28 years total, teaching in Frederick County.
That's awesome. Melanie and I first met at Cincinnati
Yes, we
Road
did.
Elementary lots of years ago. Stonewall.
Hi guys, it's Marcy Jerkowski, and this is my 17th year teaching and my 3rd year at Stonewall.
Awesome, Marcy. Thank you. Did I miss anyone? I hope not. Okay, thanks everyone again. And Brenda, were you able to access Pear Deck? All right, hopefully she can. Yes. All right, so we are going to utilize Pear Deck, and Linda's going to give you some additional information about this platform as we move through the slide presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. It is our goal during our session today to not only just touch base with you, to see how things are going for you and what your needs may be, and to inform you of some of the questions we've been receiving and how we can support you, but to also share with you a tool that you can utilize when providing instruction both synchronously and asynchronously. So as Sue Ellen has mentioned, the tool that we are going to utilize today is Pear Deck. Pear Deck is an add-on to Google Slides that it's pretty user-friendly. So as opposed to a Google extension, which kind of needs to be installed and can operate in many different platforms and programs, Pear Deck is simply for Google Slides. So we created our Google Slide presentation, we added the Pear Deck add-on, and that allowed us to create a presentation that was or will be interactive and engaging rather than a typical PowerPoint or Google Slides that is just kind of a sharing of information. So our hope is that by modeling for you the options in Pear Deck, that you can find something that you can consider using when providing instruction to your students. By no means do you have to learn how to use this, and it certainly doesn't have to be now, because we understand there's a lot going on right now, and folks are, as we'll see in the future, kind of in a lot of different places. But we wanted to share with you a great tool that, if you have a basic understanding of Google Slides, is something that you can very easily implement into your instruction. So kind of in a nutshell, Pear Deck is a tool that allows you to create or turn a Google slide presentation into an interactive, engaging learning platform. And this can be done both one-on-one or as a whole group, or even in small group sessions. So what it does is it combines your presentation with those interactive questions. Sharon, Sue Ellen, and I, as we have been working on our agenda for this meeting over the last month or so, have really been wanting to make it more engaging and make it more collaborative so that we can not only connect with you, but that you can also connect with each other. So just about a week ago, we learned of some of the great things that could be done in Pear Deck. So this is very much a learning process for us. We are by no means proficient, and we appreciate your understanding, patience, and grace as we work through showing you this tool and possibly hit some roadblocks and bumps along the way. But you know, typically when you're learning something new, you're not going to get it right the first time, and those things will happen, and we just push forward and we figure out how to navigate it. So with that being said, you'll see that we've tried to include several of the interactive options into our presentation today. You'll see that there are draggable questions in the form of agree or disagree, thumbs up, thumbs down. You can ask students to draw pictures, which is a fantastic, you know, tool in any content, but specifically in yours. And I do recognize that in some of the previous lessons that were shared for our virtual learners, you had them do just that. There's also the ability to ask for a free write response with a short text, long text, or even numbers. And you'll also have the opportunity to include multiple questions with yes or no. That is not an example.
Yes.
To
Let me see if I can. Can you give me a thumbs up if you're able to hear me?
disengage the
Okay.
FCP
So it might just be Linda, I think.
Okay.
Is she back? Can
I'm
you
back.
hear
Can you
Linda
all hear
now?
me now? Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Emery. Yeah, it seemed like folks needed.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. I think we're
When I unhooked it, it worked. So I'm just going to roll it up for now. So as I was saying, we don't want to overwhelm you with all the options, but we certainly wanted to show you some of the capabilities and features of Pear Deck so that if you find something useful today, that you can begin to implement it. After our time together today, we will edit this video as we have done for previous grade levels and upload them to our instructional services site. And that way, if you needed to access it after our time together, you can certainly do so. Or just know that in the future, if it is an absolute must that you cannot participate in a session, those recordings are available. When we send out that recording, we will also send a very basic Pear Deck tutorial that the three of us actually utilized in order to gain an understanding of this tool. So with that, it's our hope that what we present to you today will not only be informative, but also engaging and provide you with one more tool for your tool belt. On this very first slide, you should see that we are asking you to share a success you've had this year. On the right-hand side of your screen is a text box where you can input your responses. And we're just going to give you a moment to sit and think about a celebration that you have that you'd like to share with us. Thank you, everyone, for putting in your responses, and please continue to work on those. What I want to share with you that as the teacher or facilitator for this session, I can see all of the responses as they are being created. So what I'll see is a few words come up in individual speech bubbles. And what I can also see is an ellipses, or those 3 dots, to show me that a student is still thinking and still working through that. Especially if you're working with kiddos who aren't quite, ready for putting in capital letters and punctuation, you may not know if they're done. So if you see those 3 dots, that kind of shows you as the teacher that you need to give some more wait time. And that is a feature of Pear Deck that I greatly appreciate, is that it is a respectful, equitable way to elicit responses from students. Research shows that we give very little wait time to our students after posing a question. So we know that adults and children process information differently as it's being delivered to us, and then also internally. So we often give students less than a second of thought time before we are calling on one of those first kiddos who have their hands up. So wait time is a very valuable instructional tool that will give kids an opportunity to really process the question and think more deeply about a response before giving somewhat of an impulsive answer. So we wanted to give you that wait time so that you felt comfortable in really thinking about this, and we'll continue to do that throughout the session. It's definitely, not an easy thing to always sit in silence or have that quiet, but students need that, and they need that time to process. So I can see all of your responses, and the great thing is that I can tell who lost audio.
Yeah,
I didn't hear anybody say that.
I'm seeing it. Yeah. I'm seeing it.
Not seeing that.
Can
we do an audio check?
Can we do an audio check?
Can everyone hear me?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So the great thing is that I can see the responses, and I can see who they're from, but the rest of the class cannot. So again, this is a respectful way to get responses from all students and to ensure that all students are engaging. At this moment, we only have 9 responses, so that either means that some have just not come up with an answer yet. Maybe some are having issues getting into Pear Deck, some having connectivity issues, but the great thing is that when all is said and done and our presentation is over, Pear Deck will automatically create a Google Doc that will be uploaded into my Google Drive, and it will show every answer to every question from every student. So if, let's say, we ask 6 questions in this presentation and all but 1 student answered all of them, that would be a good indication to me to maybe follow up with that student to ensure that they know how to use this tool, that they're familiar with, the keyboard and the technical piece, but to understand, I noticed that you didn't participate or engage. Can you tell me what happened? Are you unsure of what to do? Because this is a great tool that can get you 100% engagement and give you the opportunity to give very specific, timely feedback to students. We know also through research that feedback is one of, if not the most powerful tool in moving students forward in their learning. It is not the report card grade, it is not the 0 through 100 or A through F on their paper. It is the feedback that you give them, the comments that you make of, this is where you are starting.
Jillian just said it at
Guys,
2:08.
can you hear me?
Guys, can you hear me? Yes? Okay. Linda,
Can you hear me?
Can you hear
This is
Linda? Okay. I think so. I just saw Jillian's comment saying lost audio again, so I wanted to be sure.
Okay.
Okay,
Back
thank
to
you.
Ariana, sorry. Okay, Ariana, so yes, we are using this synchronously right now. So I chose in
Can you
Pear
hear
Deck
me?
to make
This
this
is Linda.
teacher directed.
I think so. I just told you.
It will always prompt you to choose if it's teacher directed that you'd like.
Okay, back to Ariana, sorry. Okay, Ariana, so yes, we are using this synchronously right now. So I chose in Pear Deck to make this a teacher-directed session. So it will always prompt you to choose if it's teacher-directed that you'd like to do or if it's student-directed. It is highly recommended that you always choose teacher-directed if you're going to be with the students live, because they cannot move forward or backward in the session of their own volition. They have to be on the slide that you are currently on. When you are shooting this out to your kiddos who are working independently at home or maybe even independently in your classroom, you want to choose student directed, because the student will be able to move through their slides at their discretion. So Ellen, can you make sure you mute yourself if you haven't? Okay, so you want to choose student directed if they are working asynchronously or independently, because that will give them the ability to move through their slides at their own pace and, give them, they can determine their own wait time and how long they need for the response. So you can use it both live, synchronously or asynchronously. So you'll see that as a facilitator, I'm now moving us on to the next question. And what we want to do in this slide is we want to know how you're doing. We want to hear about you. We want to do a wellness check, much like we check in with our students every day on how they are doing, how they are feeling, and what they're coping with. We want to know that about you. It's so important that we all think about and focus on our mental health and mental wellness, just like we know it is important to do the same with our students. On your screen, you should see a vertical purple line, and this particular engagement tool allows you to move that line left to right to show where you are on this spectrum. Everything you see on this screen is editable. If you don't like a 0 to 10 scale, you can make it 0 to 5. If you want to change the student's appearance, you can change that. If you are working with students who may not be prepared to read this text, change the text and make it simpler. You can also completely remove the text and put images in. Maybe you find different emojis that students are familiar with, and they can choose and slide along the emoji. We're going to give you a moment, and then I'm going to tell you some more capabilities. Okay, just for the sake of time, I want to make sure that we're moving along, and so I apologize if you need more time for this. The last thing I wanted to tell you, that let's say you wanted to use this, and this is a pre-made Pear Deck slide. We did not create this. We're not that savvy quite yet. So if you wanted to use this, but perhaps share it with your kindergarten students, it is incredibly easy to add an audio clip to your Google Slides so that it comes up in Pear Deck. If you want to learn more about that, there are lots of tutorials out there, but it is incredibly easy, and you can record yourself reading each one of those text boxes. And that's a really important feature. When we put a lot of text on our slides, it is not equitable and it is not accessible to all of our students. And so we need to make sure that we're looking at everything through an equity lens so that we're providing what students need and what's at their level.
It shares some different resources for you that you can see are available. And the one that we want to point out to you is the Employee Assistant Program, and just remind you of that resource. This resource is available to all of us as Frederick County Public Schools employees, as well as our families. Looking at all the various resources, and certainly this is not all encompassing, but take your purple dot that you see there on the screen and move it to the resource that might best support your needs now, based on where you put yourself on that scale in the previous slide. They'll put it in the white space. You'll put it in the white space in front of the name of the support. So there's a white box in front of the first blue column, and then there's a set of white boxes in front of the second blue column. So if you feel like you're leaning a lot on administrators or colleagues, put your purple dot in the appropriate white box that is to the left. So folks relying on colleagues, I think we can relate with you. It's great to have teammates and colleagues that are in the same boat and that we can share successes and frustrations and resources and ideas with. The EPA has been in our county for a few years now, and this is possibly on a more professional level sometimes that this benefit is available to us. The phone number is there and the password. Certainly there are members of HR that can give us more details about that particular benefit. And if you're in need of additional supports, our counselors have a wealth of information, just another support group to reach out to if we need them. All right, thank you for sharing those answers. We are going to move to the next slide now and talk about the instructional services site and a new tab we have. Okay. Sharon was going to share that one, but unfortunately, I think she got kicked out. So I'm going to just speak to this tab a a little bit with you. On the instructional services site, and I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see what I'm referring to. It's awfully slow right now, and I apologize for that. But on the instructional services site tab, if you've bookmarked it, we would love for you to put a yes thumbs up with the blue dot. And if you haven't, that's okay. You can put a thumbs down and we will show you how to do that. So just drag your blue dot there. If you have it bookmarked, and that is awesome. It looks like lots of folks have this bookmarked. Perfect. Okay, so on our site, there is a tab that is called Communication to Administrators through Principal's Notes. If you want to follow along, there is a communication through Vivian Simon, our secretary, that generally goes out the day after the Principal's Notes communication that is pertinent to teachers and sometimes specific teachers in different roles. We thought it would be helpful to put all of those communications in one spot so that folks can refer back to them when necessary. So there's a communications tab on our instructional site now. And again, I'm sharing my screen with you to show you where this is. And on that tab, you will see by month, I believe it's starting in July, the date and the topic of the communication. So it may be slow in getting there, but certainly it's being recorded and you can refer back to it at a later time if you need to. Okay, so anyway, the communications that we send out will be located on this tab in the instructional services site. Just want to make you aware of that. All right, next, back to Pear Deck presentation.
I need to talk.
Okay.
Can I talk through yours?
Mm-hmm.
Let's pull that up.
We have a virtual learning checklist that we want to bring to your attention.
Maybe that will be it.
It might be helpful if you turn off your camera as well, your video. I think that might be, sometimes it can really help.
All right, guys, the reason we created this checklist is because I talked to a few teachers and I've had some feedback from classroom teachers, administrators, and some parents, and we're talking about lessons that we share with students. So we wanted to, we're all in this together and we're all doing everything that we can possibly do. And again, we just hit the ball running and just kept going with it, but we want to make sure that we put some things in place that'll help us being a little bit more consistent. So if you take a look at this checklist, the first thing you're going to see is alignment. We're required to teach the standards of learning, and the parents should know and be able to see, okay, that's a standard that we have to cover in art, music, PE, English, science, social studies, whatever, but I know that I can find that on the VDOE and get more information. So they want to be able to recognize this. And some of the things that teachers have been doing is putting an I can statement
or the objective at the very beginning of the PowerPoint. The next thing that we'd like you to do is, is it an I do, we do, you do? What is it that you have modeled for the students? How are you getting them to practice together with you? And then also, I thought you were doing something. And also, what is the student doing? And how are they showing you that? That I can statement should be at the beginning of each lesson to help students understand the learning intention. And this also, again, helps the parents understand the learning intention. The next thing is assessment. All lessons should have a way to measure the student's understanding. Some of you said you're using Seesaw, and that's very familiar for some of you. And now we have Pear Deck, and then there's so many other ways that students can show their understanding. Maybe it's just a slide, but whatever you present to the students, make sure that the student understands how to use it before you put it out there. So you may need to have some direct instruction for that. The length of the lesson, should be 30 minutes and should include those components above. The next part, if you scroll down, are visual supports. Visual supports refers to using pictures or other items to communicate to the students on what you want them to look at. Photographs, drawings, videos. Research has shown that these visual supports work well as a way to communicate, and this is not just for special education students, this is for all students. Visual cueing also, if you're highlighting some vocabulary words, or if you're showing a specific piece of art, and maybe you have a border around that, making sure that it pops out so the students understand what they're supposed to be looking at. The next one is auditory supports. If you use Pear Deck, there's a great way to put auditory supports in there, some voiceovers. And then here's another one that I've linked in here, onlinevoicerecorder.com. It's compatible with your Google Slides and can easily be put in there, and it'll show a little speaker. You just need to show the students. You hit the speaker when they need to hear something. Because again, students come in and they're not all on the same reading level. The next one is sharing permissions, how to share some of these documents. And I think in your lessons, I think we've gotten that all worked out. But if you need more information on that, go ahead and click that link. And then there's some universal designs for learning. What should the background of your slide look like? Increased space. Consistency between slides, a high contrast between the background color and the color of the font. Again, think about these things, and there's some examples in here when you go into that link for Universal Design for Learning. Copyright is a big thing also if you move down to the legalities. If you go to the Elementary Instructional Services site, we'll put this information in there, how you can find more information on copyright, or you'll be able to click that link as well. To find some copyright information. And thinking about this, if you're telling a story, make sure that you're able to use that story. If you're using a particular picture, a video, make sure that you have rights to use that. If you have gained the rights to use it, then you want to include that in your slide. You would just say, this person, whoever it is, the author of it, gave me permission to use the slide, and that way everyone knows that it is something that you've looked into and it is a step that you've taken. So this checklist is something for you to go through when you start to build some of your slides. The other thing is fonts. There's particular fonts that in Section 508, the Rehabilitation Act, requires us to use so everyone can have equal access. And again, they're listed below as well. And I think that is about it on that. So
I did want to add
Linda
one
wants
piece.
to talk to you. Hold on a second. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And actually, this is something that I just learned of a few days ago in talking with some of the folks who are the copyright experts, so to speak, within the division. It is very important that if you are relying on the copyright information posted on our site, that you continue to cycle and circle back around to that document each time you want to use a book for a read aloud or any kind of those materials, because it is constantly changing. Judy Greathouse, who helps with that, as well as Glenn Moreland, had let me know that that is forever changing, that sometimes authors only give permission, or even the publishers, for a small window of time. And so something that is okay and approved to read today may not be tomorrow if you miss that window. Additionally, many of the authors and publishers who gave permission in the spring only did so because of the quick onset of virtual remote learning and that sort of thing, and those permissions have expired. So in order to proceed in the safest and most legal manner, it's very important that you continue to check back in that site each time you want to utilize those resources, unless you yourself reach out to the publisher and or author and receive that permission, in which case, and in all cases, you would ensure that you say you have obtained permission to use those materials.
I don't think the next slide applies yet.
Okay. So this year, as you know, we have new visual arts standards, and we also have a crosswalk. And so we would like at this time to get some feedback from you. And in this manner, not necessarily through Pear Deck, but through the chat, or you can unmute yourself, whatever you're comfortable with, letting us know how you would like to best proceed with our work. Because the standards are new, one of the first things that we need to do as a group, preferably, but we certainly realize, different situations and different experiences and backgrounds that everybody's bringing to the table. We want to make this the least stressful process that we go through, and honor the time that you have too. So one of the first things that we do is, of course, look at the crosswalk. What are the standards that are different between what we're teaching now and what the 2020 standards are? And that crosswalk gives you those differences. The links there on the screen take you to the standards, and they take you to the crosswalk. It's actually for fine arts, because music is coming up as well. So you would just simply select on VDOE the crosswalk for visual arts. You don't have to do that now, but at some point, if you haven't already, taking a look at what some of the major differences are by grade. And then we would need to look at our current standards, our current pacing, and see what's different. And based on what we've been doing the past few years, how do we want our pacing to change, in accordance with any new standards that may be different? Maybe developmentally, looking at a vertical articulation, it's no longer appropriate to pace the standards that we had been doing. And so we really appreciate your input and your knowledge and background in helping make those determinations. So we have October, November, and December meetings, and of course they're only an hour each. We have some different options before us, and we would like to know, would you strictly like to keep just those hours for this kind of work, and we just see how much we get done? Are you open to maybe on Wednesdays, if you have availability and desire that you want to get together as a group outside of those set dates that the three of us have with you, that you're starting to have conversations and figure out, maybe you break it up by grade level and where you are thinking it's best appropriate for those standards, and by quarter. If you're feeling very overwhelmed by the Wednesdays, or even any other amount of time outside of that, again, we can just keep it to the times that we already have set aside for you. We just want to open it up and get your feedback, please. You can put your thoughts in the chat in the Google Meet, or you can unmute and share aloud with everyone, whatever your preference is. Okay, thanks, Ariana. She's sharing that there's not a lot of free time and amen to that. So the times scheduled are fine with her. Adding more will take away time needed for other lesson planning, for example. So that's absolutely one idea. And Jillian agrees. Thank you, Emery. And if you're at a point where you'd like to think about this a little more and give us an answer another time, you can email any one of us. But it looks like Brenda is agreeing those Wednesdays. And, maybe that's just where we start, And if you don't mind taking a look at the crosswalk on your own between now and next month, so that when you do come to our scheduled Wednesday meeting, you kind of have some of that background knowledge. You're not trying to study them and kind of see some differences. And if it's okay with you to save time, maybe we'll start with kindergarten, for example, and we'll work our way up. And so you would know, okay, maybe I'll just look at kindergarten and first grade, and we'll see how far we get for next month's meeting. And then November, again, we'll see how feasible this is and how much time we have. It might be second and third, and December might be fourth and fifth, or something like that. But so far, it looks like half of you are feeling like the Wednesday times that we have scheduled already would be the best times to kind of start this work. And we have all year. We certainly want to do the pacing. That's what drives everything else first. And we will then build the curriculum documents like we did before. Our secretary is very savvy at putting those together and using different graphics. And then after we determine the pacing, we'll start looking at things like, what resources do you want available in the curriculum documents? What assessments, and not necessarily all of that has to be done this particular year, but we definitely want some pacing and some guidance for you so that next year you kind of know where to begin first quarter for every grade level. So if that sounds good to everyone, and I know we didn't hear from everyone quite yet, but if that sounds good, then that's what we'll do starting next month. Emery's noted that he's even started using the new standards so far this year, and he's remaking lessons as he goes. So he'll share some of that at our next meeting. That's awesome. Thank you. And Marcy and Danielle, thank you very much for your agreement and saying Wednesdays are good. Lindsay, same. Really appreciate your feedback. Thank you, Erica. I see that. All right, awesome. We super appreciate your feedback, and we just want to make you feel as comfortable and as less stressed as possible as we move through this task, because unfortunately the VDOE hasn't relinquished us from taking a break from that yet. They have in some content areas, but fine arts doesn't seem to be one of them right now. Thank you, Melanie. I see your comment too. Okay, so we're going to wrap up our session here, and we're going to go to slide, yes, back to the Pear Deck. So this is another interactive Pear Deck slide that you can use and that we would like to hear from you. So having kind of gotten your thoughts on what we're going to do next time, for the next minute, if you would please write down what you need exactly to be thinking about for the next meeting and what your next step might be in order to prepare. That will help us make sure that we bring to the meeting and to the table things that you might need. The more we prepare you with, hopefully the better you feel, and we'll be able to help us have, as productive of a meeting and as efficient as possible. The goal for the meeting next time, that's a great question, would be to start thinking about the pacing. And again, I think we'll start with kindergarten and just work our way up. What would kindergarten pacing look like by quarter? for the new standards, and we'll simply see how far we get. We may get, quarter one down. We may not, we'll just see where it takes us. But I see lots of you saying, I need to take time to review the new standards in greater detail. I need to get an idea on what the differences are between the new standards and the old. And some of you are in different places with that. So, yeah, small changes to your slides for virtual learners. Keep things simple, interesting, effective. Great reflections. Review the new standards again. You'd like to know how, with reduced class frequency, how pacing will be affected in this COVID year. Yeah, that's a great question. And it is most definitely going to be affected. You didn't have enough time to begin with, did you? And now it's even less for some kiddos. Okay. Thank you for those responses. Very much appreciate that. Our next slide, could you see yourself using Pear Deck in your classroom? I mean, if it's just one more thing that you just can't handle right now, of course, thumbs down is very appropriate. If it's something like, well, I'd like to kind of try it out. It seems very useful. It has some things that I might be able to try with my kids, maybe certain grade levels. Give a thumbs up by clicking the blue dot and dragging it to the appropriate icon. We just kind of want to get a sense of how you're feeling right now about Pear Deck. Okay. Okay, thank you. And as we wrap up today, our next slide is just that instructional support. So we would appreciate you completing this survey. It is linked in your Pear Deck slideshow. And it just asks you some basic questions and things that would help us help you. Your group is so small that networking is just kind of more natural with you guys, since there are 12 of you and a lot of that is already going on. But if there are other ways that we can help get information and resources to all of you, we want to be able to support you and do that. So that's also the reason for this survey. Ariana mentioned that Google has the add-ons mentioned in Pear Deck for everyone also confused by Pear Deck. We're also going to send out a tutorial once we send out the link to this recorded webinar or professional learning session with you today, because there are so many parts to it. It definitely is confusing and hard to comprehend everything that Pear Deck has to offer. So we've been asked, okay, Linda's going to follow up with you, Jill. Thank you. Just double checking the comments in chat. All right, so please complete the survey by October 16th. And again, we just really thank you for your time and attention, participation today. Please reach out to any one of us if you have questions or need support. We are here for you, and we appreciate everything that you do. Thank you for today, and we will talk with you next month, if not before.
What does Brenda say to link what?